as you can see from the title, it happened! Oh my gosh, okay. This happened on Friday night. I'm currently filming this on Monday. It will be up on Tuesday. And I just wanted to like share it all, and I can't believe it. Like, it really feels as though I've been talking about this, like me and I've been talking about this for ages. And for it to like finally happen, it's like a mixture of, oh my gosh, is this real? And also, damn it, there's nothing I can hold over his head or complain about anymore. He did a fantastic job with the whole thing. I want to tell you the whole story. Was I expecting it? Was it a surprise? All of that. If this is all over the place, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to properly put this together. Right, let me tell you the story. I've heard this story about 57 times because that's all we've been doing this weekend, is calling people, telling them they want to know the story, all of that. Okay. You know how I have my like agendas and my diaries and everything, right? So I was updating it and I saw some scrawly little writing, that is undoubtedly Nee's, on the 3rd of February saying 6:30 till 9, first 30th birthday surprise. As we know, I'm turning 30 this month. And so I like went into the living room and I was like, what's this? And he said, don't bother guessing, you won't be able to guess what it is. And I was like, we're going to see a show. And he was like, don't guess what it is. All I'm saying is make sure you're dressed up and there will be photo opportunities. And then on the day, I was getting ready and I thought, it's a surprise party. And blah, 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 I was getting ready. I went out into the living room where he was, and he was wearing a shirt. Now, Nee does not like wearing a shirt out of his own accord. He finds it uncomfortable. It's almost like a straitjacket for him. So I was like, this must be a really smart situation. Nee only wears shirts at other people's weddings. And then I like scuttled back off into the bathroom and I made this video. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming to you from my bathroom because I have suspicions. Nee has planned a surprise 30th. Some sort of activity, right? He's just said, first birthday surprise for your 30th. But he's told me to get really dressed up. He's in a shirt. That's the first thing that worries me. Well, not worries me, but I'm like, am I getting engaged tonight? Oh my gosh. Well, I'm wearing a very fabulous, I'm wearing a very fabulous Vivienne Westwood that I've had for over 10 years. Right, let me finalise. After all this, do you want to know what? We'll go like painting some pottery or something. And I was like, okay, well, it's probably not going to happen because Nee had always said, like as of last year, Nee had always said by the end of Q2 2023. And he is very much somebody, if he says he's going to be there at this time, he is there at the exact time. So I was like, you know what, it's too early, it's February, all of that business. We're in the Uber and he said, when we get to the venue, you won't guess what it is based on the venue. I quickly saw that it's this bar it's on Houston Street. It's called Madame X. I've driven past it a number of times, and to be very honest with you, I thought it was a shop, right? A naughty shop. And I thought, well, I'm definitely not going to get proposed to this evening. And I also thought, what an odd birthday surprise. Turns out it's not that, it's a bar. But he was like, close your eyes. So I'm there, like, you know, feeling around, you know, stumbling all of this business upstairs. And as we got up the stairs, I heard that very bait Bruno Mars song that's like, her eyes, you know the one. So I was like, okay, odd timing. I still thought I'm going to open my eyes and it's going to be a surprise party. And then it was only when he said, open your eyes, and I could hear that he was talking from down here, that I was like, oh my gosh, it's about to happen. And I opened my eyes, and I'm going to try not to cry. I haven't cried since. Why am I crying now? And as soon as I saw him, all of the tears, all of that. I'm actually very annoyed because when I got home at the end of the night, there was a massive mascara streak down the inside of my nose. And I was like, I hope that's not in any of the pictures. I cried, and I cannot remember what he said to me. Neither can he. but he ended it with, will you be my wife? And I mean, we've been going out for 6 years, so that was obviously a yes. And then there were 2 people on the left-hand side of me, and I thought they were like from the bar or something. Oh, and he'd set it up and it's all like, I'll tell you why he chose the venue and everything, but there were like petals on the floor, I'll show you a picture, petals on the floor and a marry me sign and all of this. And my one thing I had said, I was like, whenever you're planning to propose, I have 2 requirements. I was like, I'm not bothered about it being a big thing, like, you know, I don't want us to be sodding hanging out of a helicopter wrapping around the island of Manhattan when you ask me. I was just like, I just want it to be the 2 of us and make sure my nails are done. That was it. There were 2 other people there, which is totally fine because one of them is the photographer that I use like when I shoot outfit pictures on Instagram, Cody, and then the ring designer. We will get into the ring designer, how he chose, who he chose and all of that. It's just amazing. And then Cody took loads of pictures of us. And then we ended up afterwards, right, this man was calm the whole day. He had a nap. Right? This man, there was no inkling that something suspicious was happening. About 2 hours before we left the house, he was like, oh, you know what I could do with one of those Max Brenner hot chocolates. If you want hot chocolate in New York, Max Brenner, it's phenomenal. And he was like, oh, and there's one that's got a restaurant. It's like very touristy, but the menu looks decent. Should we go there after this thing? Because there's not going to be food at this event we're going to. And I was like, all right, yeah. I looked at the menu and I was like, there's a fettuccine Alfredo, I'll be fine. So after that, we went to eat at Max Brenner, you know, all in all my sparkles, dressed up, looking like a right tart, and had the fettuccine Alfredo. Wouldn't recommend. No, it's not good. It's not a good one. Apparently Nee's burger was fine. Hot chocolate, 10 out of 10. Get the Italian hot chocolate, don't get the classic. Great. And then we came home and we watched season 2 of Harlem. And it was just the most us way to end the day. I want to talk about when like Nee's process started. So over this weekend, we've just been talking about like, oh my gosh, like how did you decide and when did you decide and all this business? And apparently he started talking to the ring concierge. This ring is not by the ring concierge. He started talking to the ring concierge before we moved. This is exactly what I've wanted. There has been a notes app in Nee's phone, a page that is like, this is the shape, this is this, all of this business. As I've said things to him, he's been like updating it apparently. September, I think they have like a meeting, and then the woman he's dealing with said, right, we're going to meet back in December when you're ready to buy, but make sure you've seen all the other rings by then because we can't hold it. So when you come in and see it, it's that or you know, it's gonna go. So in December, he also called my parents and asked them, and like, I know for some people that's really like not something that they're particularly bothered about and everything, and I get that, but it's something that I always wanted Nee to do, and I always knew that he would do that. So he called my parents. My dad, who is the most relaxed man in the world, was like, yeah, like, go for it. Like, it's been 6 years. And my mum got all, like, emotional and was like, you know I love you, Nee, but I feel like I'm losing my child, like, my baby and all of this. And she was like, obviously it's fine, but, you know, it's really sad for me and all of this, right? So that's what I've been dealing with since. He sees it in person. I think he felt like under pressure at the time and he was like, I'm not going to rush this decision. I'm going to leave it. A month or 2 before this, I had been at an event for Mind Games Fragrances and I was introduced to Shari. And literally, as I met Shari, I was like, oh yeah, nice to meet you. Are you a jeweller? And she was like, yes. And I was like, I've been following you for like 3 or 4 years. Anyway, so we spoke the whole time, we got on really well. So after that event, I came home and I said to Nee, I was like, oh my gosh, I met this woman who's a jeweller. She seems really great. And he was like, oh, right, like what's her Instagram for when I'm ready, sort of thing. He then like reached out to Concept 26, that's her jewellery brand, and was talking about what I wanted, blah, 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 and she went on the hunt and found this stone. And apparently he saw the stone and was like, yeah, let's go for it. And it was like, I think it was better specs he was after. Don't ask me about the specs. I do not know. I know that there is a certificate and it's GIA, and I look at it and it's clear. It's the most perfect thing I've ever seen in the world. It's everything I wanted. I don't know the ins and outs. It's literally, this happened on Friday. Now, another thing that was sort of part of his decision was, I think at the ring concierge you can only choose from like certain settings. It's like you have this, there's nothing custom. Whereas he could do everything custom with Concept 26. So the setting is really cool. I'm going to try and like insert some side images so you can see, because there's like a C for Cassie that's on either side. There is absolutely nothing I would change. I can't. So apparently they met up on Wednesday to give the ring, and he had it in his jacket pocket until Friday night. Then the venue. I know at one point he was considering renting a gallery and having pictures of us where there would be art, but he said that they were either too big and it didn't feel like intimate, or the galleries weren't willing to like take their own art down for it. So he ended up looking for spaces, and he saw this particular space, and it's all red inside. Apparently it's described as New York's sexiest bar. I feel like I am like a 6-year-old dressing up, like, you know, playing out her little fantasy. It feels so surreal. And I feel like I'm going to be in a social situation where I would usually, like, you know, tease Nia a bit and be like, oh yeah, well, you know, come back when there's a ring on my finger, and I'm going to be like, oh wait, hold on a second. Damn it, can't make those jokes anymore. Right, my parents' reactions. So this happened at 7:30ish on Friday night. My mum is asleep. My dad doesn't turn his phone on silent at night. So I was like, okay, we've got a chance with my dad. FaceTime my dad, he's so happy. Out of Nia's parents, the only one that was awake was also his dad. He was so happy. Everybody's just been so happy for us, and it's been amazing. I've mentioned this before. The doormen and women in my building are just fantastic. So before we left, I said to one of them as we were leaving, I was like, oh, I'm going for a birthday surprise. And he was like, he was very suspicious, and I sort of brushed it off. So when we came back, he was still there, and I was like, it happened, and everybody was so happy. And actually today, I went down to the valet where they like take your packages, because there's one woman there who is the sweetest woman ever. And I went to collect my package, and I was like, something happened. And I showed her my hand, and she held my hand and she like prayed over it, which is the sweetest thing ever. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm just giving you all my good energy and all of that. And it was just incredible, honestly. So, wedding planning. You know me, within 3 hours of getting engaged, I had already sent a message to the dress designer that I always sort of said in my head that I would use should this day come. Though I am going to do a lot of like trying on, because just because you've seen it somewhere doesn't mean that it's the one for you. You know me, I'm a very emotional person when it comes to my purchases. Also, like, are you guys interested in following along on this journey with the planning and what I choose and all of that? Because whilst this will not become a wedding channel, I think it would still be great to show you, like, I don't know, trying on the dresses and all of that. It might be interesting, and like sharing wedding updates. Then on Saturday, I was like cooking my little meal, and I was like, oh well, let me just find an article for the best wedding planners in the US. And I started reaching out. Within an hour and a half, one woman had already called me. I was on the phone with her for 40 minutes. I couldn't get off, truly. That in itself was literally, I was just there like, what have I got myself into? We've not even finalised like numbers and budget and any of that, and here I am like, what is going on? Like, my mum rented her dress when she got married. Like, she is completely bewildered by this world of weddings now, that she's like, this is insane and crazy. You do realise that? I'm like, mother, I am aware. But also, she's excited about all of these elements. Also, the question of when. Back end of next year, definitely. I mean, I always sort of thought I would definitely want at least a year to plan. I kind of want to leave the location that I have in mind as a surprise, because it's maybe not the most me place you would think. It's somewhere in the US. Nia has already told me he wants absolutely zero involvement in wedding planning. He's like, I've done my bit, weight's off my shoulders, I'm just there to finalise numbers, budget, everything else I'm just going to turn up on the day. And it's like, brilliant, thank you. That is actually all I want, because the last thing I need is for Nate to put his 2 cents in and go, oh, actually, I prefer lilies. I'm a hydrangeas girl. I feel like I've got a lot to learn. There's going to be a lot of watching videos and TikToks and everything about how this works. I'm speaking to like a couple of different planners over the next week. And also just like the timelines of things. My friend Parisa got married not that long ago, and she was like, I had to pick my dress 9 months before, but I recently went with somebody and they're saying it's a minimum of 11 months and all of this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm not over it. I don't know how long it's going to take me to be over it. When I was on a call with one of the wedding planners, she was like, so what does your fiance, like, you know, feel about this or whatever? And I was like, well, my fiance. I was like, oh my god. I keep going around to Nee and I keep going, oh, this is our first meal as fiancés. I've got to stop. I've got to reel it in. It's something that we always knew it was going to happen. And Nee obviously has had months to like emotionally, you know, be prepared for this. And I literally just feel like, oh my gosh, it's happened. That next like step, that milestone, it's here. Finally. It's here. You know I had to tell you. I'm going to leave a link to another video over here in case you haven't already seen it. Have an amazing morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are. And in the words of my father...
If you've enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you haven't, keep your mouth shut.
I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye guys.